Pack leader. So today I want to do a video on the Freedom Coin, just kind of adding more details to it. I know there's a whole lot more to it, and I probably could use some help with it too. But I want to talk about the labor hours that you would be entitled to. I know that as creators of it, we'll kind of like an ICO or whatever it is, you kind of have a bonus for kind of jumping in. So it's kind of the same where more labor coins will be issued out as incentive for being initial founders for creating something from the ground up that has that just kind of start off, right? Unless there's like already infrastructure already built, then there'll be more credibility, more trust in that the system will work. Okay, so because it's just from the ground up, we don't know, right? So we're gonna have to incentivize with more coins per labor hour. So I don't know what that number is and what people are willing to take, because it could just be anything, right? We could just blow it up and totally inflate the whole thing, and it's just no different, right? So I want to talk about, like, so is a janitor's time, 1 hour of his janitor's time, equivalent to a doctor's 1 hour of time? How do you trade that? Is it valued the same? How does that even work, right? So, but then everyone's life in terms of time, I would say, is no more important than the guy who mops the floor. I mean, everyone's life is equally important. Is what I'm trying to get at. But now, when we talk in terms of skill, how much time that was invested prior to acquiring that skill, and the quality of work done has some merit. And how do we put that into a coin that we want to fix it to on 1 hour per time, but we don't want to trade at a fixed amount when certain services and skills are more valuable. Okay, so we're gonna have to have a scale of some sort, a standard, because I know that maybe a doctor would have put about 10 years of time to learn what doctors do. But that time was already prior invested. Now, if there was time that was paid to acquire that skill, then that's about 1-to-1, right? It doesn't take much to learn something. A janitor learning how to mop versus a doctor learning how to do surgery, it's still an hour's worth of your time put in. Now, but I'm sure he's put in more to acquire a skill of surgery rather than a skill of cleaning the floors, kind of thing. So, but what I do see is that whatever that the hour is, a janitor can say to the doctor, "Hey, I will be willing to work for you for 10 hours for your 1 hour's worth of time to perform a surgery on my arm," or something like that, right? It takes him an hour. It takes the janitor 10 hours to kind of make that trade, or that equivalent trade for those services. Okay. So there is something there where it can be traded, but on the issuance of it, that's a little bit more difficult to handle. Now, so I kind of been thinking about, like, okay, well, initially we probably won't need doctors or anything right now, so it's probably not a non-issue for now. But what's important for the community is programming. It's mostly digital assets at this point because it's on a blockchain. It's on a open network. So programmers is what we need. Probably writers, artists, graphic designers who can create nice websites and interfaces, designing the site. Those are important aspects of it, because you don't want it to look clunky. It has to look pretty and professional. It builds trust. I know it does, sometimes it doesn't matter, but it does matter. And so a lot of these skills are mostly digital skills. And then eventually, basically recreate our Constitution of the United States and all the departments that are in there. The records, building codes, medical practices, maybe certain laws or record keeping, voting systems. How can we vote representatives, congressmen, House of Representatives, Republican, whatever. I don't know government stuff. I failed at that part, but I'm gonna leave it to someone else out there who knows how the system works, but be able to kind of translate that into a blockchain so that based on the people who have contributed to it, in a sense, will have votership rights. So the more you work for the system, the more you increase your coin, your position on it, the more stake you have, right? And so the more your vote should matter. And anyone could just work hard and accumulate more, right? Or you can spend it all and not have any vote, and that could be a thing too. So that ways there's in a sense control in inflation because people want to keep it, and then at the same time people don't want to spend it, but we have the ability to back it by actual work. So I think the creation of money is fine as long as there's a backing for it. Now, let's say if we found a ton of gold all of a sudden, yeah, well, gold will probably be worthless too, right? So that's another thing too, to keep in mind, that we don't want to inflate it too fast. We don't want to flood it too fast. At the same time, we want it to have enough so that we have a growing, strong economy that prospers, right? And so I think that when there's a demand for it and there's a need for it, then there's a use for it and a value for it. And as more of these, labor coins or freedom coins, or I was gonna say cost of freedom, cough. I don't know if that's a good idea, but as that system increases, I know that some people will still need to, in the meantime, trade to fiat. And I know there's something where you can kind of, in a sense, it's called like a futures, right? A futures contract, where you can always have something where you can back it by 1-to-1 to $1, but then it allots you a certain amount of freedom coins. But if that fluctuates or whatever, you'll still be allotted that same amount to get you that one fiat dollar. Something that's I think I've been watching other videos like Steemit and Steemit, yeah, Steemit has already done in some sense on that because they're able to print, but at the same time back it if you're willing to go to Steam Power and all that stuff and be entitled to some interest rate on it. So I'm still new to all that stuff, but someone who might understand it better could in a sense do that. But I still want to kind of keep it away from fiat, but then allow people to say, hey, if I want to fiat, you can then trade your coins for fiat, but there's some fluctuation because of how fiat is, all jacked up kind of thing. So but to incentivize just keeping everything inside and exchanging inside goods and services all within the same coin and not ever have to bring it out to fiat. And so in order to do that, to have phone apps for iOS and Android, some kind of point of sale system through phones and Android, and also possibly some equipment to allow that to kind of keep that within, and kind of a marketing team to create videos, education systems, also to teach the community a useful skill, either to support it, either auditing skills and work, kind of playing the functionality of it, and as they play the functionality of it, they'll be incentivized these coins to then be able to purchase goods and services. People who are willing to vouch their business and use the labor coins for their own business if they need virtual assistants and administrative type work, they can then contribute their products and services that way, in response for labor, and not have to deal with all these taxes and whatever, payroll taxes and this and all this other stuff, right? And so that's kind of a way. And then if you want to have a healthcare system and all this other stuff, I mean, build it all out, but keep it all within that system. That would be really cool. So there's a lot of functionality, a lot of work to do. I can't do it all along, but it's basically recreating everything on the blockchain that the government, our U.S. government has, and then it kind of having people who are able to pledge their allegiance to that, and commit to that. I don't think when times of and I think that places like Syria, where the people are just in constant war and they're just trying to get by and they can't get out. And they're fighting. But I think it might be a good way to help them, in a sense, get have a job, have some coins, be able to trade, be able to put food on the table, find other merchants in the area that are willing to trade. Venezuela possibly too, as they're going through their hyperinflation, to go find people that are able to trade with them and actually have trade labor for labor and be able to put food on the table too. And the biggest challenge right now, I think, is real estate. To have something where they can actually use those coins to pay for rent without having to go to fiat, right? Because usually the banks control the homes. There's usually a loan on there. Someone who owns a property free and clear, or of some sort, or maybe a government that's willing to take on this system, that would be awesome too. Okay, and then and just make a whole governmental system around it, kind of thing. So that's just for what I have for now, as far as thinking about how to peg and kind of distribute that labor hours. I don't have an exact number at this point. Any suggestions? I'm asking for the community to help with that. What was it, 1 hour for every labor coin, but maybe we'll just bump it up to 10 for now for early early contributors to that, so it's not overinflated. And then people who want to scale up can invest their fiat to their own project and team members, and then their team members again contribute to the program, building it up. And then based on the times log, the coins will be issued out based on the backing of the recording of the actual work done on a database of some sort somewhere. Okay. Alright, so that's all I have for now. Let me know if you have any other new ideas. I think tomorrow I'm probably going to talk about see inflation, deflation, and how to kind of like go from goods, from actual labor to actual physical goods. Like, how does that work? I don't want to back it by physical goods anymore. I think that's the whole problem with the whole thing with backing it by physical anything, gold or silver or whatever it is, because it's deflationary at the same time. And the whole reason why governments print is because of war. As soon as they engage in war, they spent all their gold on silver on tanks and whatever. And then what else you got to do? You got to debase your money, right? Otherwise, you lose the war. It becomes a resource war. Whoever has the most resources and lasts the longest basically wins, in a sense. Once you lose all your resources and you spend it all, or eventually your people goes, hey, you're hyperinflating your dollar, then you lose too. So it's just kind of the timeline before you lose all your stuff, and then you start debasing your dollar until people realize that you debased it, and then you lose trust in that dollar, and then it just all fails anyway. So I don't want to go through that cycle again and again, and people try to go back to gold, and you're just repeating the cycle. Let's just try something totally different. All right, so this is all I have for now. We'll talk about it to you later. Bye.